My name is Avery. I am 27 years old. I was sitting in a fancy restaurant. It was loud. There were too many forks on the table. All my family was there, aunts, uncles, cousins. Noah, my fiancé, sat next to me. My mother, Karen, stood up. She clinked her glass with a spoon. The sound was sharp. Everyone quieted down. She had a big fake smile, the kind she uses when she is about to say something terrible, but wants people to think she is charming. "We have an announcement," she said. Her voice was too loud. I thought she was going to talk about the wedding date. We had set the date for 6 months out. I felt a nervous excitement in my stomach. This is it, I thought. My big moment. She looked right at me. Her eyes were blue and cold. Then she said the words, "We're not funding this circus." The air left my body. I froze. I didn't breathe. She meant my wedding. My dream wedding. The one they had been promising to pay for since I was a teenager. The one they had bragged about to these same relatives. She said it like it was an after-dinner toast. Like she was sharing a funny joke. A few of my cousins laughed. A nervous, unsure sound. My mother took a sip of water. She sat down. She looked satisfied. Before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe. Drop a comment where you are watching from. That single, simple sentence became the exact moment my life split in two. It was the moment I realized something cold and true. Family loyalty and real love are not the same thing. And I also realized that sometimes the quietest, sweetest revenge is walking away with more power than the people who hurt you ever thought you could have. I was always the easy one. That was my job in the family. I was the reliable daughter. The one who did what she was told. My grades were always straight A's. I didn't need to be told to do my homework. I just did it. I went to the state college my parents approved of. I majored in business. I got a steady job right out of school. I am a project coordinator now. It's a good job. It pays my bills. I never caused trouble. Never. Then there was my sister, Madison. Madison is 3 years younger than me. She is the beautiful one, the wild one, the loud one. She was the opposite of me in every way. Madison was constantly in trouble. She dropped out of college twice. She tried to be an actress, then a singer, then an influencer. None of it worked, but Madison's mistakes were always cushioned. If she needed rent money, Mom and Dad gave it to her. If she got a bad grade, Mom called the professor. If she crashed her car, Dad bought her a new one. Those were their rescue missions. They always talked about Madison's spark and her potential. They talked about my life like it was a neat, boring folder. I thought the wedding would be my turn. I thought for once, the spotlight would shine on my steady, good life choice. I was marrying Noah. Noah is an engineer. He is kind. He makes me laugh. He is everything my life needed. My parents had promised us the venue money. They had looked at the place with us. It was a beautiful old mansion on a lake. "We are so proud to host this," my mother had told the venue owner. She had even told her bridge club that she was sparing no expense for her first daughter's wedding. She used it to show off. For months I planned. I picked colors. I saved pictures. I imagined walking down that long aisle. I felt loved. I felt seen. That night at the restaurant, everything stopped. After the terrible announcement, silence hung over the table. I could feel Noah's hand find mine under the white tablecloth. His skin was warm. Mine was cold. "What was that?" I asked my mother. My voice was a whisper. It was almost polite. I didn't want to cause a scene. That was not my job. My mother smiled again. This time it wasn't fake. It was the smile of a woman who knows she has won. "Avery, don't be dramatic," she said, still speaking a little too loudly. "We simply made a new decision. A better one." My father, Robert, didn't look up. He was stirring his wine glass. He looked tired. He looked small. He always did when Mom was running the show. His silence was the first cut. He never defended me. Never. "What decision?" I asked. My voice was stronger now. It shook a little, but it was strong. My mother took a deep breath. She acted like she was explaining basic math to a child. "We are redirecting the funds," she announced, "to Madison's career launch." Madison, who was sitting across the table, immediately cheered. She clapped her hands. "Thank you, Mom and Dad. This is huge." A wave of nausea hit me. The money for my future, for my chosen life, was being handed over to fund Madison's next failed idea. "What career launch?" I asked, confused. I looked at Madison. She was already texting on her phone. Ignoring me, "She is starting a new lifestyle brand," my father finally mumbled. He still didn't look at me. He looked at the breadbasket. "She needs capital," my mother explained. "A lot of capital. Your wedding, Avery, is just a party. Madison's future is an investment. We have to prioritize." The word prioritize felt like a punch to the gut. I was not a priority. I was a party. Madison was an investment. I looked around the table. The relatives were nodding. They were buying it. They always bought whatever my mother sold. My Aunt Carol leaned forward. She patted my arm clumsily. Well, Avery's practical, Aunt Carol whispered to the person next to her, but loud enough for me to hear. She'll be fine. She doesn't need a huge, expensive wedding. She can handle things herself. Madison needs the help. She'll be fine. That was the constant, quiet dismissal of my feelings. Because I was capable, my needs didn't matter. Because I was responsible, I didn't deserve joy. Then came the real, deep cut. The public humiliation. The moment that was meant to crush me completely. My mother leaned close to me. She moved her mouth next to my ear. Her perfume smelled heavy and sharp. She spoke in a voice that was just loud enough for the 4 people closest to us, including Noah, to hear. And besides, honey, your card got declined again. We checked the joint account. My heart hammered against my ribs. It felt like a bird trying to escape. That's not true, I whispered back. My face felt hot. My bank accounts were separate. I kept my money away from their control. I was always careful. My mother gave me a slow, pitying look. Oh, sweetie. Yes, it was. Don't lie now. You need to learn how to manage your budget better if you want to be independent. It was a lie. A bold, public lie. But the lie stuck like black tar. Laughter rippled down the table, louder this time. The 4 people who heard had already spread the rumor. They weren't laughing at the idea of a canceled wedding. They were laughing at me. At the broke, getting carried away daughter who was pretending she could afford things. My face flushed deep red. I felt tears sting my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. I wouldn't give them that satisfaction. I felt Noah's grip tighten under the table. It hurt. It was the only thing holding me steady. It was the only real, warm thing in that whole terrible room. He knew it was a lie. He knew me. I looked at my mother. She was sipping her wine. Her eyes were triumphant. She had successfully turned my dream into a joke and my character into a failure, all with a single toast and a quiet lie. This was no lesson in humility. This was an assassination of my worth. I closed my eyes for a single second. When I opened them, the tears were gone. I will not break here, I told myself. I will not give them the show they want. Noah finally stood up. He put his hand on my back. His touch was firm. Avery, we're going, he said to me. His voice was calm and low. He didn't yell. He didn't make a scene. He simply took control. He looked at my parents. His face was flat, empty of emotion. Thank you for the dinner, he said. He didn't wait for a reply. He pulled my chair back. I stood up. I didn't look at anyone else. I just walked out with Noah. The sound of their casual conversation starting up again followed us out the door. My presence, my hurt, my life, it was already forgotten. I was the easy one. I was the responsible one. And for that I was dismissed. My wedding was canceled. My future was sold. And my family watched and laughed as it happened. We got into Noah's car. I didn't cry. I didn't say anything. I just stared straight ahead through the windshield. The city lights were blurry. Noah didn't turn the key right away. He just held my hand across the center console. His thumb rubbed the back of my hand, back and forth. It was the only sound besides my own ragged breathing. I am so sorry, Avery, he said finally. His voice was low and tight. He was angry for me. They used me, I said. My voice was dull. It sounded like someone else was talking. They used my wedding to make Madison look good. It was cruel, Noah agreed. And it was a lie about your card. I know that. Yes, I said. It was a lie. But the lie didn't matter as much as the intent. They wanted everyone to think I was a failure. They wanted to prove that without their money, I was nothing. Noah started the car. We drove in silence back to our small apartment. The moment we walked in, my phone started buzzing. It wasn't my parents calling to apologize. It was the vendors. First, the manager from the Lakeside Mansion venue. Avery, she said. She sounded confused. Your mother called us immediately after dinner. She said the wedding is canceled. She requested the full refund. She did what? I asked. My knees felt weak. Yes, she was very specific. She said there were unforeseen financial circumstances and that you would be planning a much smaller event. She already processed the payment reversal. The blood rushed out of my head. Did she mention why? I asked, hating how weak I sounded. She said you were over budget and that she needed to teach you a lesson in fiscal responsibility. I hung up. I put the phone on the counter. I felt sick. The calls kept coming. The caterer, the florist, the company that rented out the fancy chairs. One by one, my beautiful wedding unraveled. Every phone call snipped another thread of the dream. I stood there in the kitchen, watching my life fall apart in real time. It was fast, brutal, efficient. Noah was putting the takeout containers from the restaurant into the fridge. He stopped and watched me. What are we going to do? He asked. I don't know, I said. I felt empty. I don't even know why they hate me so much. They don't hate you, Avery. They just don't respect you, Noah said. They only respect what they can control. That thought settled in my chest like a cold rock. They don't respect you. The next day, Madison was all over Instagram. I knew I shouldn't look, but I did. I couldn't stop myself. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash that involved my own bank account. Madison's first post, a picture of her holding 2 huge shopping bags. Designer logos. Caption. Starting my new venture with the perfect wardrobe. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for believing in my vision. Offer our career launch. Blessed. The new designer bags were bought with what was once the deposit for my wedding band. Then came the pre-launch dinners. She was at fancy, expensive restaurants every night. She tagged our parents in the photos. Mom and Dad looked thrilled. They looked proud. They looked like they had done the right thing. They looked happy with their choice. I went to my mother's house on Saturday. I went alone. I didn't tell Noah. I needed to know the real reason. I found my mother in the sunroom. She was reading a magazine. Classical music was playing softly. It was a picture of peace. I sat down across from her. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I used the quiet, polite voice I always used when talking to her. Mom, I said, why did you do it? The wedding was mine. You promised. She lowered the magazine slowly. She didn't look angry. She looked bored. Avery, we talked about this, she said. Madison needs this startup. She is at a pivotal moment. You and Noah are established. You have jobs. You can pay for your own wedding. We can pay for a small wedding, I corrected her. But you promised the big one. You planned it with us. And I unplanned it, she said simply. Life happens, honey. You need to learn that not every promise is a guarantee. But you told everyone I couldn't afford it. You lied about my bank card, I said. My voice cracked a little. She waved her hand, dismissing my pain like it was a fly. That was a lesson in humility, Avery. You were getting carried away. A wedding isn't supposed to be a circus of excess. You needed to be grounded. Humility. The word tasted like ash. My mother's definition of humility was public degradation. Her definition of grounding was theft. You stole my money and my dignity to boost Madison's ego, I said. It was the most direct, honest sentence I had ever said to her. She didn't flinch. She just smiled. It was the same sharp smile from the restaurant. You are being dramatic, dear, she said. You'll look back on this one day and thank me for teaching you independence. Now your father and I are busy planning Madison's pitch meeting next week. I need the room. She picked up her magazine again. The conversation was over. I stood up. I looked at the room. This was the house I grew up in. It no longer felt safe. It felt like a trap. I walked out the door and got in my car. I drove away from the family home. I didn't look in the rearview mirror. As I drove, the hurt shifted. It didn't disappear, but it changed. It went from a hot, stinging pain to a cold, hard resolve. They thought they had taught me humility. They thought they had grounded me. They were wrong. They had only succeeded in teaching me one thing. I could never, ever rely on them for anything. And that realization was the beginning of my quiet fight back. I didn't scream. I didn't cry anymore. I didn't beg. I didn't even argue with them again. That was what they wanted. They wanted the drama. They wanted to see me break. I decided I would give them silence instead. I went back to the apartment. Noah was waiting. He didn't ask how it went. He could see the answer in my face. I am done, I told him. I am done being their puppet. I am done being the responsible one who gets punished for being responsible. What does that mean for us? Noah asked gently. It means we get married, I said. We get married, but we do it without their permission. And without their money, Noah smiled. It was the first real, hopeful smile I had seen in days. I liked the sound of that. My parents' entire plan rested on 2 assumptions. That I was financially dependent on their wedding contribution, that I would throw a fit, be sad, and eventually settle for a cheap courthouse ceremony, proving their point that I was incapable of having a beautiful life without them. They were wrong on both counts. What my family didn't know was what I had been doing for the past 2 years. Late at night, after my job as a project coordinator ended, while they saw me as the boring daughter who just filed paperwork, I was actually a workhorse. I had a side hustle, a strong one. I was a freelance consultant, design contracts, event planning for small businesses. I helped people with their branding and organization. I was good at it. I was very organized and dependable. People liked me. I had always kept that income completely separate. It was my safety net. My secret fund, I had saved about $40,000. It was small compared to the $100,000 my parents had promised for the circus wedding. But it was mine. This is enough, I told Noah, showing him the bank statement. We can't have the lakeside mansion, but we can have a beautiful wedding. And then I told him the second secret, the one I had been holding on to, almost afraid to mention it. I need to call your Aunt Olivia, I said. Noah's Aunt Olivia was a lovely woman. She was sweet but also fierce. She owned a large, gorgeous vineyard a couple of hours outside the city. It was her passion. She ran it with a small team. Olivia adored Noah. She loved that he was so grounded and kind. She also liked me. We spent quiet afternoons with her sometimes, talking about planning and structure. What about Olivia? Noah asked. She told me a year ago at Christmas that if we ever needed a place, we should use her vineyard, I reminded him. She said it was an open offer, free of charge. Noah's eyes widened. She meant it as a gift. She'd love this. I know she would, I said. We can pay for the food, the photographer, and the dress. She can provide the venue. It felt like a huge weight lifted off my chest. The venue was the most expensive part. My parents had just paid for Madison's lifestyle brand launch with my money. I would pay for my life with my own savings and the kindness of real family. I called Aunt Olivia that afternoon. I told her everything. Not dramatically, just the simple facts. The betrayal, the lie, the canceled checks. Olivia didn't say much. She just listened. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Avery, she finally said. Her voice was firm. Tell me your date. The vineyard is yours. Free. And I'm going to make sure it's the most beautiful wedding you could have imagined. She didn't treat me like a victim. She treated me like a woman who deserved better. Noah and I started planning that night. We did it in the shadows. We did it in silence. Every vendor we booked, we used Noah's name or Olivia's vineyard address. Every decision was made in secret. While my parents and Madison were out buying new furniture for Madison's office, which was really just a nicer spare bedroom in her apartment, I was out buying flowers. While my mother was bragging on the phone to my Aunt Carol about Madison's seed money, I was finalizing the photographer contract. My wedding became a secret project. It was built not on my family's approval, but on my own hard work, my resilience, and the true support of Noah and his family. Every stolen hour after work felt like an act of rebellion. Every confirmed booking felt like a small act of justice. I didn't want their money anymore. I wanted my independence, and I was going to prove that they could not stop me. The next few months were a blur of secrecy. It felt like I was living a double life. By day, I was Avery, the calm project coordinator. I answered emails. I went to boring meetings. I visited my parents on Sunday afternoons and listened to them talk about Madison's progress. I smiled and nodded. I pretended I was fine. By night, I was a wedding planner. My own wedding planner. Noah and I worked in our small kitchen. We sat at the tiny table with our laptops. We did everything quietly. We used low voices, even when we were alone. It was like the secret was a physical thing that needed protection. We booked the photographer. He was a friend of a friend. He gave us a good deal because he loved the vineyard. We booked the food. Olivia, Noah's aunt, knew a small catering company. They specialized in simple, beautiful farmhouse-style meals. It was not the fancy, expensive food my mother wanted. It was better. It felt real. Every time I sent an email, I used a new address. It had Noah's last name in it. I didn't want any stray emails showing up on my family's shared calendar, which they still somehow had access to. We called the event the Vineyard Project. It felt like a mission. Meanwhile, my mother was busy with Madison. She was constantly bragging. Madison is meeting with investors next week, Mom would say on the phone to my father, loud enough for me to hear when I visited. That lifestyle brand is going to be huge, Dad would reply. He seemed excited. They talked about the startup money constantly. They threw parties for Madison. They called them networking events. They were just expensive dinners where Madison talked loudly about her vision, and our parents paid the bill. I remember one specific dinner at my parents' house. Madison was showing off a new, very expensive laptop my mother had bought her for the business. Avery, look at this, Madison said, holding it up. It's so fast. You wouldn't believe how much better this is than that ancient thing you use for your job. It was a clear dig. They were using their money to show me I was lesser. I just smiled. A calm, quiet smile. It looks great, Maddie, I said. I hope your business is successful enough to justify the expense. It was a simple sentence, but it carried weight. My mother jumped in immediately. Of course it will be. Unlike your ridiculous wedding, this is an investment. Yes, I agreed easily. I hope so too. I did not argue. I did not get angry. I did not tell them that the laptop was probably bought with the money that was supposed to pay for the first deposit on my wedding dress. I just went home that night and put a stamp on the invitations. Simple, elegant cards that I had designed myself. They asked guests to come to a private family gathering at Olivia's vineyard. The date was exactly 6 weeks away. We only sent them to close friends and relatives we trusted. Not to my parents. Not to Madison. My parents were so busy looking at Madison, they forgot to look at me. They saw my silence as defeat. They thought I was mourning the loss of my wedding funds. They never realized my silence was actually preparation. My internal dialogue became very sharp during this time. They think I can't do this. I will. They think I need their name on the check. I don't. They think I am weak. I am actually the strong one. I worked harder at my freelance consulting. I took on extra jobs. I needed every dollar. I called Olivia often. She was an anchor for me. "Are you okay, Avery?" she asked one night. "I'm more than okay, Olivia," I told her. "I'm free." They took the money, but they gave me something better. They gave me independence. "That's exactly right," she said. "They forced you to build this life on your own terms, not theirs. That's a powerful foundation. We planned the ceremony. It would be small, maybe 50 people, just the people who genuinely loved us. We decided to write our own vows. Simple words, honest words. No pretense. I found my dress at a sample sale. It wasn't the designer dress my mother would have picked. It was simple silk, flowing and beautiful. It cost less than Madison's new laptop. I paid for it in full with my own freelance money. It was the best feeling. Every small victory built up my strength. One night, Madison called me. This was unusual. "Avery, listen," she said, her voice frantic. "Mom needs you to look over my pitch deck for the investors. She said your project coordinator brain is good at organizing text. I can't be bothered with small details. She was asking me to do her homework. Work that was being paid for with my wedding money. I'm busy, Madison," I said. It was the first time I had ever refused her. "What do you mean you're busy?" "It's Saturday night," she snapped. "I have my own consulting work," I replied calmly. "You should hire someone if you need help." "I'm not available." She hung up on me. I knew she would run straight to Mom. 10 minutes later, my mother called. "Avery?" Her voice was icy. "You need to help your sister." "This is family, Mom," I said. My voice was steady. "I have a job. I have my own consulting business. I am not Madison's free assistant. Madison needs to take responsibility for her own investment." There was a long silence. She was shocked. I had broken the mold. The easy daughter had said no. "You are being selfish and unhelpful," she finally sputtered. "No," I said. "I am being independent. Just like you wanted." I hung up the phone. I didn't wait for her to yell. I felt a rush of cold power. They could control the money, but they could not control me. We kept planning. The wedding day was getting closer. The secret was getting heavy. It was also getting perfect. The wedding day arrived. It was a Saturday in late September. The weather was perfect. Crisp, clear, and sunny. I woke up in a beautiful cabin at the vineyard. Olivia had let us use it. It smelled like cedar and grapes. I felt calm. Strangely calm. I wasn't nervous about the vows. I was only nervous about the secret coming out. My best friend Clara was helping me with my hair. She kept smiling at me. "Your mother is going to lose her mind," Clara whispered, helping me zip up the simple silk dress. "I know," I said. "That is not why I did this. But it is a pleasant side effect." I looked in the mirror. I wasn't wearing a huge expensive gown. I was wearing a dress I earned. It made me feel strong. Noah's family started arriving early. His parents came and hugged me. They told me how much they loved me. They were genuine. There were no strings attached to their love. Olivia was everywhere, making sure the small wooden arch was perfect and the string lights were twinkling. She treated me like her own daughter. The ceremony was in the middle of the vineyard. Rows of deep purple grapes surrounded us. It felt intimate. It felt like us. When I walked down the short aisle, I only saw Noah. He was crying. Just a little. He looked proud. He looked happy. He looked like home. We said the vows we wrote. They were simple promises. I will always choose you. I will always be honest. I will build my life with you, and only you. When the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, the small group of guests cheered. It was a loud, happy noise. It was not a circus. It was a celebration. We took photos among the vines. The light was golden. Everything felt peaceful and right. Later, during the reception, we ate dinner at long wooden tables outside. We used the white china Olivia kept for special events. The food was warm and delicious. Everyone was laughing. I felt a happiness I had never known before. It was a happiness earned through struggle. To the bride and groom, Olivia raised her glass, who built their life on their own strength, honesty, and love. It was the perfect toast. The party lasted until the stars came out. We danced under the string lights. We were married. It was real. The family who truly loved me had been there. The family who tried to sabotage me was nowhere to be seen. The whole thing cost less than 1/3 of what my mother had offered, and then stolen. And it was 10 times more beautiful. The next morning, Noah and I packed the car for a short honeymoon trip we had saved for. I knew I couldn't keep the secret forever. I needed to tell them. Not to gloat, but because I was finished with their control. The marriage was sealed. I needed to deliver the final, quiet message. You failed to stop me, and I knew the perfect time to do it. Madison was holding her big, heavily funded career launch party next Saturday. My parents had been planning it for months. It was going to be their moment to shine, their moment to show off their investment daughter. I decided I would give them a little surprise at their own party, a quiet, undeniable twist to their perfect narrative. I looked at the simple silver wedding band on my finger. It wasn't huge. It wasn't flashy. It was the hardest-earned piece of jewelry I had ever owned. "Ready to go, Mrs. Brooks?" Noah asked, using his last name. "More than ready," I replied. Noah and I spent 4 days on our short trip. It was simple. We rented a cabin by the coast. We turned off our phones. We talked about our future. No money drama. No family pressure. Just us. It was exactly what we needed. A small pocket of peace before the war started. We came home on Friday. Madison's big career launch party was the next night. I felt calm, but cold. I wasn't scared. I was ready. My plan was simple. I wasn't going to make a scene. I was going to deliver the truth with quiet proof. That was the only way to beat my mother. She thrived on noise. I would use silence. While I was away, my parents had been busy. They had called me twice. Both times they sounded annoyed. "Avery, where are you?" My mother snapped in the one message I listened to. "Madison needs you to check the seating chart for her launch. It's important. Don't be selfish. Selfish." That word again. My existence was selfish if it didn't revolve around them. When I got home, I spent the afternoon putting together a photo album. I didn't use a professional service. I printed the best pictures from my wedding on my small home printer. Close-ups of Noah and me, shots of the vineyard, Olivia raising her glass, the simple wedding cake. I slipped them into a nice leather-bound album. Noah watched me. "Are you sure you want to do this, Ace?" he asked. Ace was his nickname for me. "I have to," I said. "If I don't, they will think they won. They need to see that their sabotage only made me stronger. This isn't revenge, Noah. This is taking back my narrative." "I'm with you," he said. He put on a suit. He looked handsome and solid. My husband. The word felt good. The launch party was at a beautiful country club, the kind of place my mother loved. Huge windows, fancy lighting, expensive hors d'oeuvres. We arrived exactly 30 minutes after the start time. We wanted to make an entrance, but not a dramatic one. We wanted to interrupt the flow, not crash the doors. We walked into the ballroom. It was packed. Everyone was dressed up. My mother and father were holding court near the stage. They were glowing. Madison was standing next to them. She wore a bright pink dress. She was talking fast and loud to a group of people who looked slightly bored. She looked exactly like the investment my parents had built. When we walked in, my mother saw me first. Her face froze. She hadn't seen me in a week. She was expecting me to look beaten down, maybe sad, maybe a little angry. Instead, I was wearing a simple, tailored black dress. My hair was professionally done, styled by Clara before we left. I looked calm. I looked happy. I walked straight toward my parents. Noah was right beside me, his hand on the small of my back. A clear sign of unity. "Avery, you decided to grace us with your presence," my mother said, her voice sharp. "I thought you were too busy being unhelpful." "I wouldn't miss Madison's big night," I said, smiling politely. I was holding the leather photo album tight in my hand. My father looked relieved to see me. Then his eyes went back to the floor. He still couldn't meet my gaze. Madison walked over, annoyed. "Oh, you're here. Don't cause a scene, Avery. This is my professional evening." "I know," I said. "And I have something professional to share too." My mother laughed. A fake nervous sound. "Oh, Avery, don't be ridiculous. This isn't the time for your office binders." "It's not binders," I said. "It's about celebration." The room was starting to notice us. People always watch family drama. My mother tried to pull my arm away from Noah. "Go stand over by the bar, dear. We are introducing Madison's investors soon." I stood my ground. "I'll wait." The moment came about 5 minutes later. The lights dimmed. My father went to the stage to introduce Madison. He gave a long, rambling speech about risk, reward, and supporting your children's dreams. He ended by saying, "Please welcome the future of lifestyle branding, my daughter, Madison." Madison walked onto the stage. She was beaming, the focus of the whole room. She began her speech. It was full of buzzwords and confidence. "Thank you all for being here," Madison said. "Tonight is about dreams coming true." As Madison talked, I walked up to the side of the stage. My mother was giving me a furious look, but she couldn't interrupt Madison. I placed the photo album on the small table next to the screen that was showing Madison's logo. I pulled out a small, remote presentation clicker I had slipped into my dress pocket. I had prepared a simple slideshow, Just 10 photos from the wedding. I had loaded it onto a thumb drive and bribed the AV guy earlier in the day. When Madison paused for applause, I clicked the remote. The huge projector screen behind her, which was supposed to show a stylish graphic of Madison's brand, suddenly changed. It showed a picture of Noah and me laughing, kissing under the fairy lights at the vineyard. The entire room froze. Madison was mid-sentence. Her mouth hung open. She stopped talking. Her projected face was right next to mine, the laughing bride. I clicked again. The next photo appeared. Noah slipping the ring on my finger at the altar, with the vineyard rose behind us. I heard a collective gasp from the crowd. Whispering started. Loud, sharp bursts of sound. My mother's voice cut through the noise. It wasn't a whisper. It was a strangled scream. What is this? Avery, turn that off! I walked up to the microphone stand and gently pulled it down to my height. I still had the quiet smile. My voice was calm, clear, and steady. Speaking of celebrations, I said into the microphone. My voice easily carried across the room. Noah and I have something to share with everyone. I clicked the remote one last time. The final picture. A tight shot of my simple silver wedding band next to Noah's, resting on a clean white linen napkin. My parents couldn't fund the circus, I continued, looking directly at my mother, who was rushing toward the stage. So we had a quiet, beautiful celebration instead. I held up the remote slightly. We got married last Saturday at Olivia's vineyard. It was small. It was perfect. And it was all paid for by us. With my own savings, my mother reached the stage. Her face was bright red. Her carefully styled hair was shaking. She looked like a fury. You behind our backs? She gasped. Her hand flew to her chest. My father was standing by the stage stairs. He looked stunned. Then he looked furious. This is unacceptable, Avery, my mother shrieked. This is a betrayal. I put the microphone back on the stand. I picked up the photo album. You called it a circus, I repeated, my voice now just for them. I made it a home, and I paid for every piece of it without your money, your approval, or your strings. The room was a chaos of noise. Relatives were pointing at the screen. Some of my cousins were smiling and clapping softly. They understood. Madison finally found her voice. She was sobbing, loud and dramatic. You ruined my night. You stole my attention, she cried. She ran off the stage. Attention, Madison? I asked her, loud enough for a few people to hear. I thought this was a launch for a business, not a reality show. My mother tried to grab the photo album from my hand. I pulled it away quickly. We gave you that money for a reason, Avery, so you would learn. You have shamed us. My mother accused me. You took that money and tried to shame me publicly, I countered. I just told the truth privately, and then delivered the proof publicly. My father finally spoke. His voice was low and shaky with anger. Get out, Avery, both of you. You are no longer welcome here. I think we'll go, I said, but not before I congratulate Madison on her launch. I looked out at the room full of people. They were silent now, watching the drama unfold. I took Noah's hand. He squeezed it hard. My parents and Madison were a storm of red faces and angry whispers behind me. We walked toward the large glass doors of the country club. We didn't run. We walked slow, deliberate. As we reached the door, I looked back one last time. My mother was standing by the stage, staring at the screen, which still showed my wedding rings. She looked utterly defeated. She had lost control of the narrative. Noah opened the door. We walked out into the cool night air. The silence outside was a profound relief. You did it, Noah whispered, pulling me into a hug. They couldn't stop me, I whispered back, holding the photo album tight. They truly could not stop me. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their money. The wedding was over, and the marriage had begun. The ultimate twist was that their betrayal became the greatest gift, the gift of my own power. The ride home was quiet. My heart was still pounding, but it was a good, strong beat now. Not the nervous flutter I used to feel around my family. Are you okay? Noah asked me. He kept his eyes on the road. I'm free, I said simply. That's what I feel. I had done what I needed to do. I had spoken the truth without shouting. I had shown them that their control was an illusion. The phone started ringing before we were even halfway home. It was Aunt Carol, the one who said I was practical and would be fine. I didn't answer. I didn't want to talk to any of them. Not yet. Over the next few days, the silence from my immediate family was deafening. My mother didn't call. My father didn't text. Madison didn't send a screaming email. They had been deeply shamed. They hated that. They hated being exposed as the villains in their own story. The relatives, however, started circling. They loved drama, but they also loved a winner. Aunt Carol called again. This time I answered. Avery, honey, I am so sorry, she started. Her voice was too sweet. Sorry for what, Aunt Carol? I asked directly. Well, for everything. Your mother. She was out of line. The way you handled that, though, was brilliant. Honestly. Such a lovely wedding. Why didn't you tell anyone? I couldn't, I said. It was going to be canceled again if they found out. Aunt Carol quickly agreed with me. She spent the next 5 minutes telling me how much Madison's lifestyle brand was costing my parents. They just bought her a huge office space she doesn't need, she whispered. And the launch party? It was a disaster after you left. People were only talking about your wedding. I didn't gloat. I didn't encourage her. I just listened. I hope they are happy with their investment, Aunt Carol, I said. And then I ended the call quickly. My internal dialogue was clear. I am not going back into the family drama pit. They don't suddenly respect me. They just respect that I beat them. Noah and I built our marriage on that moment of independence. Our tiny apartment felt huge. We had no debt, only the satisfaction of our hard work. We were a team. Meanwhile, Madison's career launch was falling apart. Madison wasn't a worker. She was a spender. She spent the capital on presentation, the fancy office, the designer clothes, the expensive lunches. She didn't spend it on developing a real product or a sound business plan. About 2 months after our wedding, the bills hit. Hard. My mother called. Not to talk about the wedding, only to talk about money. Avery, you need to help us, she said. Her voice wasn't angry this time. It was desperate. Help you with what, Mom? Madison's brand. It's failing. The investors pulled out. The office space lease is huge. Your father is panicking. You're so good at coordinating. You need to come look at the books. She was asking me to use my skills to clean up the mess she created with the money she stole from me. I took a deep breath. I felt the old weight of responsibility trying to settle on my shoulders. I pushed it off. I can't, Mom, I said. Why not? This is family, Avery. This is serious. It is serious, I agreed. But I told you I have my own consulting business now. I am very busy. Madison needs to take responsibility for her choices. This is her project. But we funded it, she wailed. We spent your wedding money. Yes, I said. You did. And I found out that I can build a strong life without your money. Madison needs to learn that same lesson. You gave me independence. Now you have to let Madison face her own consequences. I could hear her crying on the other end. Real tears this time. Not the manipulative kind. Please, Avery, she begged. Mom, I love you, I said. It was true, even if it was a bruised kind of love. But I will not fix this for you. I am done being the responsible one who cleans up the irresponsible one's mess. I didn't wait for her to reply. I said, Goodbye, Mom, and I hung up the phone. I sat down next to Noah on the couch. My hands were shaking. That was the hardest no I had ever given my mother. Noah wrapped his arm around me. You did the right thing, he said. I knew he was right. I hadn't gloated. I hadn't yelled. I had just enforced my boundary. That was the real power. 6 months passed. The silence from my immediate family became routine. It felt clean. I didn't miss the drama. I only missed the idea of a functional family, an idea that had died on my wedding day. Madison's career was completely gone. She had moved back home. She was quiet now, less confident. My life, conversely, was thriving. My freelance consulting business grew. I was making more money working for myself than I was at my coordinator job. I was even thinking about quitting the coordinator job entirely. Noah and I bought a small house. We paid a huge down payment using my savings and some extra consulting money. It was ours. No help from my parents. No strings attached. I finally felt like an adult. A real one. Then the final twist arrived. It was not a grand event. It was quiet, mundane, and painful. My grandfather, my father's father, passed away. The funeral was held in the small church he loved. I went with Noah. My mother and father were devastated. They looked tired and old. Madison was there too, looking pale and miserable. I walked up to them after the ceremony. I needed to offer my comfort. This was family. This was real grief. I'm sorry, Dad, I said, hugging him gently. He looked surprised. He held on to me for a long moment. It was the first honest contact we had shared in almost a year. Then I faced my mother. She looked at me with red, tired eyes. He was so proud of you, Avery, she whispered, her voice husky. He told me he saw your wedding photos. Aunt Olivia showed him. I didn't say anything. I just waited. He said you were the strong one, she continued. He said you were the only one of us who truly knew how to build something real. A tear ran down her cheek. It looked genuine. I wish I hadn't hurt you so much, she said finally. I was trying to control you. I was scared I wouldn't need you anymore if you became independent. It was a small, raw confession. Simple and direct. It didn't excuse her actions, but it explained them. I forgive you, Mom, I said. My voice was steady. It was honest. I wasn't forgiving her to let her off the hook. I was forgiving her to set myself free. But I want you to know something, I continued. I held her gaze. I will always love you, but I will not come back to the way things were. My life is mine now. You are welcome to visit our house. You are welcome to call, but the drama is finished. The control is finished. If you disrespect Noah or me, we will walk away. It was the final boundary, the ultimate protection. She nodded slowly. She looked sad, but she also looked like she understood. I won't try to stop you again, Avery, she promised. I looked at Madison. She was watching us. She looked defeated, but also a little relieved that the pressure was off. I hope you find what you're looking for, Maddie, I told her. Noah and I left the church. We held hands. We didn't talk about the money, the wedding, or the drama. We had our marriage. We had our house. We had our peace. My mother canceling my wedding was the greatest gift she ever gave me. She didn't just cancel a party. She forced me to prove to myself that I could build a beautiful, powerful life without her strings. And that was a victory worth more than any $100,000 circus. That's how my mom canceling my wedding became the greatest gift she ever gave me. Because she didn't just cancel a party. She forced me to prove to myself that I could build a life without her strings. If you've ever had family try to sabotage your joy, hit like, subscribe, and drop your story in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from. I always check. Because sometimes the most powerful word in the world is the quiet one, no.